welcome to my channel. My name is Erica, and in today's video, I'm going to be recapping all of the palettes that I used throughout the month of October. And I did rank the palettes too, which is not always an easy feat for me. Sometimes it takes me way too long to rank my palettes, but I did that for the month of August. I ranked my palettes that I used in the month of August, and then I showed you guys the palettes I used in September, but didn't rank them. And this time around, I'm gonna rank them for you, because I just feel like that's maybe more fun for you guys to see, and it is a huge challenge for me to do. So there's 20 spots in this go round this time for the palettes that I used in the month of October. One look, I did combine two palettes together, so those are together in this ranking. And then another look I created, I used a palette and then a single shimmer, so I'm pulling those together as well. And I want to say, number one, that none of these palettes I dislike. I didn't rank them this way because I don't like them. I just thought of like the looks that I created, my preferences, color stories, quality formula, that kind of thing. But I truly do really enjoy all of the palettes that I used in the month of October. And I didn't film videos with all of these, most of them I did, but either way, I'm gonna be popping up pictures of my looks so you guys can see exactly what I did with the palettes. So of course, I'm gonna start off with the palette that's in the bottom spot, number 20, and then move on up the line until we get to the palette that's in the number 1 spot. So starting off with number 20 is the Beauty Bakery Breakfast in Bed palette. And my dear friend Cece sent this to me. I did not film with this palette, but I did create a look. And like I said, I'll be popping pictures up. I think this is a beautiful neutral color story, and I really like the formula of this palette too. It's really nice, really easy to apply the mattes and blend them out. The shimmers are very nice, maybe on the more subtle side, but just gorgeous. And I'd never tried a eyeshadow palette from this brand until I tried this one, and I really enjoy it. I think it's a gorgeous color story. But you know, there's just other palettes that the color stories I like a little bit better. But I did really like the look that I put together with this palette, and I'm excited to use it again. Number 19 is the Mystery Ink palette from Notoriously Morbid. And I think the packaging is super cute. It's the Scooby-Doo van. Love Scooby-Doo. And the reason why this is ranked a little bit lower is I've only used it the one time, and I've had this palette for a really long time, but just wasn't using it. And I think part of the reason why I wasn't using it is because I kind of get a little lost when I look at this color story, like what to put together. Some of you would probably be like, give it to me, I'll show you what to do with it. And I would love that. Show me what to do with it. But I did really like the look that I created, and the quality of the mattes, really nice. I will say, however, that this matte right here, this orangey matte, is super dusty. Like you put the brush in and a cloud of orange just kind of goes whoosh. So I decided not to use that shade. I was going to use that, and then I was like, I don't know. I mean, I can't really speak to how it performs, but if you look really closely, it's blown up all over this shimmer shade. And there's just a couple of shades in here. This one here, well, maybe just the one. This one here that just has kind of a strange formula for me. You know, it's just kind of this odd formula. I noticed there's a couple shimmers like that in the Rusted Essence palette that I also have from this brand. But you know, the shimmers that I use for my look, this one here and this one here, gorgeous. Softer, I would say, in tone, not super like, you know, bah, but they are really nice. And the mattes that I did use, I used this one here, this one, and this one. They worked really well, but this one made me a little nervous. So I don't know, I need to just keep messing around with this palette, try to get a little bit more comfortable with it. But the color story, just that's why it's in the 19th spot. But then I also liked how it performed, but one of the shades I didn't. Actually, there's a couple spots in here that have two palettes that I pulled together because I used them both together in my looks. And that's what you're going to see here in just a minute with number 18. I used the Juvia's Place Nubian Royal palette, and I love this color story. However, this shade, when I used this palette for my Prince video, when I talked about Prince, my makeup and artist, which another episode of that will be coming soon. But this shade just was a little strange. It was kind of patchy, just kind of weird. But I did use this shade right here, and I loved it. And I used these two shades, and absolutely stunning. And I paired this with the Violets palette from Juvia's Place. And I'd never done that before, which I don't really know why, because it was really fun to do that. But the dark purple matte in this palette, this one right here, is absolutely incredible. I do have a dark purple matte now in my collection that has beat this one out as my favorite, but it's still really nice. And it was just really fun to pull these two together. I need to do that more often with these smaller Juvia's Place palettes because I've got several, and I think they would do great being pulled together. These are in the spot number 18, just because I have other palettes I like a little bit better. In the number 17 spot, we have the Desert Oasis palette from BH Cosmetics. Now this palette I have almost decluttered multiple times, which I'm so glad I did not do that because it's a lovely palette. I just don't really gravitate towards face palettes for whatever reason. But my goal now, since I did pull this out and used it in one of my old school palette series videos, is to try to pan that bronzer shade. Whenever I bronze my face, I just use that. And then I also want to try to pan a couple of the highlighter shades in here too. I'd love to pan some of the eyeshadows, but that's probably never going to happen. But just a really nice staple in my collection. It's a true OG BH Cosmetics palette. I've had this for years and it still works just as well as it did when I first got it. In the number 16 spot, we have the Modern Renaissance palette from ABH. And my dear friend Cece sent this to me as well. Now, this is a true staple in most people's eyeshadow palette collections. I mean, I've seen so many eyeshadow palette collection videos and so many people have this palette and I wanted to get it. I'm just kind of on the cheaper side. And I'm so happy that Cece sent this to me because it's such a beautiful palette. And this one was really hard for me to rank. I do kind of feel like I'm not doing it justice by having it in the 16th spot. I could have bumped it up a little higher, but I just have other palettes than it anyway. But you know, it's just so pretty and I really enjoyed how everything that I used in here performed. I mean, I haven't used all the shades, not even close. And I really do want to do that. But these two shimmer shades that I used are just so elegant and so classy. I really like the mattes that I used. I thought the look that I created was really nice and extremely grateful that Cece sent this to me. In the 15th spot, we have the All That palette from ColourPop. And this is one of my favorite ColourPop palettes. And I just think that color story is so beautiful. I love the depth and then the light. This shade right here is probably my favorite shade in the palette. I also love this one too, but it's starting to get a little funky. It's not really a pressed glitter. It's more like a, I don't know, just kind of a glittery shimmer. This is more the pressed glitter in the palette. But I don't know, I tried to use it and it just kind of clumped together and it wasn't really spreading onto my lids very well. This is an older palette. I've had this palette in my collection for a while. But everything else in here that I used for my look worked really well. And yeah, this is another one that was hard for me to rank, but it's staying in the 15th spot. Number 14 is the Raven's Castle palette from Makeup by Lisa. Super cool packaging, amazing for the month of October and Halloween and all that fun stuff if you choose to celebrate Halloween, which I do. And I just love this cool toned color story. Love cool tone shadows. I have forever, but I've gotten really more into cool tones like the more experience I've gotten with makeup. I don't know why. I just really gravitate towards them. And everything in here works so well. We've got these two beautiful topper shimmers. Really like the look that I created. Had a lot of fun collabing with Steph using this palette. We both have this palette, obviously. And love this UK indie brand. I don't hear nearly enough people talking about this UK indie brand. I will link their website in my description box. Go check out this brand. They have tons of different eyeshadow palettes. And Lisa, the brand owner, has also gotten into formulating nail polishes, and they're amazing. In the 13th spot, I have a palette and a single shimmer that I've pulled together. And this is the Melt Muerte palette. I did use the red mattes out of this palette for the look that I created. These ones right here, all three. And the reason why I pulled in a single shimmer is because I didn't really want to put, I just didn't feel like using the teals in the blues in that look for whatever reason. And this shade in my palette just doesn't perform all that well. So I did grab this single shimmer from VIP Glitz and Glam. This is called Life on Mars. It's absolutely stunning. It's got this beautiful shift from like orangey to gold to green. You know, like there's the red and then, let me see, well, then you have see that the kind of greeny orangey gold stuff going on. So beautiful. And the singles that I picked up from this brand, I've gotten several singles from the brand, are just incredible, just beautiful. And I just really like the combination of those red mattes out of the Melt Muerte palette with this single shimmer. So fun. Number 12 is the Yasmin palette from Miali Beauty. Now this brand is no longer in business and I have no idea if you can find this palette anywhere. I picked this up as the brand was going out of business. They were having like a going out of business sale. I got it for like 50% off, which is such a great deal. This palette performs so well. The mattes are so pigmented and so blendable. The shimmers are so beautiful. We've got a lot of duochrome, multi-chromeness going on in the shimmers here with this one especially and this one. just stunning. And I did create a look for Leanna Dalton's Beauty and the Soul Challenge for the month of October. And she'd picked out really pretty autumn leaf pictures. And the picture that I chose, I just felt like this palette would go the best with the colors that were in that image. And I think I really nailed it. I really do. I think I did a good job of recreating that color story in the look that I created using this palette. And I'm just thrilled that I have this in my collection. And again, this was really hard for me to rank too. Do you see a theme here? Number 11 is the ColourPop Blow and Smoke palette. And I used this finally for the first time, collabing with Andy and Leanna for Ash's birthday. And that was so much fun to finally pull this palette out and use it, and also to celebrate Ash's birthday. That was wonderful. And I'm really impressed with how this palette works. I know that, you know, these kind of tones aren't everybody's jam, but I love cool tones. And I really like the silver, the black, the bright silver here, and like the charcoaly stuff. You can create such a beautiful gradient with this palette. That's one of the things I love the most about it. And just the quality. It's a really stellar ColourPop formulated palette. Number 10 is the Frankenslay palette from Fatal Beauty, and I did get this in a giveaway from Avita. Beautiful outer packaging, really fun, spooky beauty, I would say, and a really fun color story. I mean, only 6 shades, but a lot of different things I feel like you can do with these different shades together. Now, this is a pressed glitter. It looks very deceptive because it just looks white. Like, so what? It's a white pressed glitter. But when I put this on my lids over the top of this black matte, you could instantly see all of the color shifts and color reflex in the glitter. Green, gold, kind of like a bright yellow, an orange, a red, blue. I mean, it was really, really fun. Now, pressed glitters are not always the easiest to apply, and they're not always the easiest to remove. I didn't really struggle with applying it. It did get a little chunky in my eyelashes, and I just kind of picked it out, but taking it off was really easy. I will say that because I have hooded lids, it did kind of blow like burp all over my eyelids by the end of the day, but I don't care. I'm really happy that I have this, and this is just going to be really fun for me to continue to play with. Number 9 is the Ladybug Glow palette from Ladybug Glow, and I love this brand. It's a US indie brand that I'm madly in love with. Now, the reason why this is ranked a little lower is just, I've mentioned this before, this color story is not always the easiest for me to figure out in terms of putting a look together with it. But I tried something a little different. I used this shade, and this beautiful silver shimmer in my look, and that was it, just the 3 shades. And that was really fun. Really fun. You know, I think sometimes some of us can get really caught up in using like 50 different shades in a look, but sometimes just grabbing 1, 2, 3 shadows and putting a look together, it just does it for me. You know, it really does. So yeah, I mean, this again, I could put up in the ranking too, but I just felt like this belonged in the 9th spot. Number 8 is the Beauty Bay Bright palette. Woo! Such a gorgeous rainbow palette. I love it. Everything works in here so very well. And my dear friend Cheryl, friend and sister Cheryl, she recommended that I pick this up quite a while ago. So I've had this for over a year at least, maybe closer to 2 years now. And everything just performs great in here. I love Beauty Bay eyeshadow palettes. They're incredible. And I did use this palette for my collab with Nikki, Jan, and Shawnee. I pulled a picture out of the movie Up and then created a color story with this app I have on my phone. And I just felt like this was the perfect palette for that. And I really do like how the look came together. And this is just so much fun to play with. There are 2 palettes in the 7th spot because I used both of these palettes together. So I just thought I'd lump them together. This is the Age of Opulence palette from Beauty Bay. And I use this palette along with another palette I'll show you here in just a minute in my collab with Nikki. She just thought that would be really fun to like randomly select a few shades out of this palette and a few shades out of the other palette to put a look together with it. And I had so much fun. I was a little nervous with the color story that I chose, that I randomly selected, but it actually turned out really well. I mean, I think you could pull any Beauty Bay palettes together, any shades from any Beauty Bay palettes, maybe not the shimmers from the Dark Fantasy palette, but everything else would work so well. And isn't that gorgeous? Love it. And I paired it with the 42 pan Midnight palette from Beauty Bay. Such a fun idea. Nikki is so creative. I love how she can just think of these things, just boom. It would take me way too long to come up with that idea. But isn't this so beautiful? Oh, and I have used this palette before in a 4 looks video on my channel. Just a blast. And like I said, Nikki just came up with the greatest idea to pull these 2 together. Number 6 is the Glam Light Scooby-Doo Ruh-Roh Raggy palette. And I love the packaging. I love Scooby-Doo. I'm a huge Scooby-Doo fan. kind of a Scooby-Doo addict, actually. Does anybody know if they still show Scooby-Doo reruns anywhere on TV? If you know where I can find that, let me know, because I'd love to watch them again. Isn't that just so beautiful? It's more cool toned, I would say. This shade maybe leans more warm, and maybe this shade too, but cool tones, beautiful colors in here. Like the combination of colors I just think is magnificent. Everything works really well. I still need to use this shade and this shade, but had so much fun putting the look together that I created with this palette. Ooh, love it. Now the top 5 palettes might surprise you here just a little bit, because the palette that is in the 5th spot, I have said multiple times, is my favorite palette in my collection. And today it's not really, but it might be tomorrow, I don't know. But for this ranking, the Watch the Queen Conquer palette from P. Louise is in the 5th spot. And I did use this side of the palette for my look. I did a navigating negativity video, get ready with me, and used a few shades from this side of the palette. And it's absolutely stunning. It really is. And this side is just as stunning and just as fun as the other side. Cool. It's just, I don't know. I have other palettes now in my collection that I have beaten this out of the top spot, at least for today, at least for this ranking anyway. The palette in the 4th spot is the Ladybug Glow Murky Waters palette. Love the packaging. And this color story and also the performance of all the shades in here is just impeccable. Truthfully, absolutely beautiful. I just love all the dimension in here and the shimmers, and I really do like the combination of mattes in here and the combination of the mattes with the dynamic, awesome shimmers. I mean, just a genius color story, I think. The Ladybug Glow brand owner is a genius in putting color stories together. This is such a fun palette. I love all of my Ladybug Glow palettes. The palette in the 3rd spot is the Gothic palette from Cosmic Brushes. And I just picked this up recently, and I just did a 2 looks video, and I just lost my marbles over how amazing the formula of these shades are. The mattes are so pigmented and blend so well. And then this shade right here, this is called Obscure, is the coolest shade out of this palette, I think, and one of the coolest shades I have in my collection. It is white, it looks white, but there's just this beautiful blue, very blue flip to it with pink and purple. This dark purple matte right here has beaten out the dark purple matte in the Violets palette, absolutely. It's so pigmented, but blends so well. And I've heard and I've seen, I've had experience with dark purple mattes that can be a little patchy. There is nothing patchy about this dark purple matte. And this black matte with the sparklies in it is just amazingly pigmented and applies beautifully. The mattes literally blended themselves in this palette. Shimmers, this is also very duochrome, you know, more multi-chrome. I love it, and I really do want to try more from this brand. The palette in the 2nd spot is the Nomad Cosmetics Fire and Ice Iceland palette. And my dear best friend and beautiful sister, Steph, she sent this to me for my birthday a couple summers ago, and I did use this palette to create a look for her birthday in tribute to her. And I am just thoroughly impressed with this color story, even though it kind of was daunting to me at first. I've gotten over that. I mean, it still can be a little daunting, but I have gotten over my fear of this color story. The performance, the formula, mattes, shimmers, everything in this palette works so well. And I did hear from one of my subscribers that this is actually going to be no longer available. I don't really get that, because this is, I think, one of Nomad's best palettes. I mean, maybe it's just not selling that well. Is that why brands do that? It's just the palette's not selling very well? Why would this palette not be selling very well? I don't get it. But yeah, this one was also very hard for me to rank, because this could have been in the #1 spot. But let me show you now the palette that is in the #1 spot. It is the Castle of Horror palette from Ladybug Glow. Love the packaging. And I have had so much fun with this palette. I've only created 3 looks with this palette so far, and it's in the #1 spot for the month of October. Out of all the palettes I used, this is #1. Beautiful color story, quality, formula, so much fun. Everything goes together so well in here. This shade right here, it's called Castle of Horror. I know I've pointed this out and mentioned this a few times, is my favorite shade in this palette because it's purple, then it flips to red. This shade is really pretty. This almost looks more brown to me. Maybe, well, not really on camera. In person, it does look more brown, but when you put it on your lids, it's got this beautiful, like, red tone to it. It's so beautiful. This black matte is stunning. The shimmers in here, it just everything. Oh, and this was done in collaboration with Blair Dale MUA. And Blair's a very talented makeup artist. And yeah, there's just no way I could not rank this number one. I mean, well, I did kind of waffle back and forth between this and the Nomad Iceland palette. But then I was like, what are you doing? You dream about this palette. I talk dirty to this palette. So there you go. That's my ranking for all the palettes that I use throughout the month of October. Let me know what you think of my ranking. Let me know if you have any of these palettes, what you think of them. Let me know if you think I got the ranking right or if I was totally off the mark. I'm looking at these palettes right now and I'm thinking, maybe I should rank them again. Maybe I should re-rank them. No, that's it. We're done here. Thank you guys so much for taking time out of your lives to sit down and watch this video. If you're new here and you enjoyed what you saw, please consider subscribing, smash the like button, and of course, comment down below in the comment section. I love to chat with you guys there. If you've been here before, thank you so much for coming back. I cannot wait to see you guys again in my next video. But in the meantime, please take very good care of yourself. Be well, safe, happy, and I will see you soon. Bye.
Drop it.